Welcome to episode 333 of the Working Fans Podcast. It is snowing outside. There's a lot of wrestling to talk in here. If you haven't already, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/workingfanspodcast. We have all our episodes go up there unedited pretty much as soon as they get done. We have classic interviews going up. We don't have any OWR stuff for this week because as it stands today, they canceled their show, so we're hoping they reschedule. But if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you know when we go live. And the crowds are saying, and that is fuck ice. We are starting at the top because I've wanted to go a lot more with nostalgia as of late. We have the return of the 5-3-1 is later today with some great rankings. We're going to talk feuds over the years. But talking current events, AEW main event, the chance of fuck ice before the match started. What have you thought about the news coming out about this?
Yeah, it caught some national attention. People were, I think most people were positive about it. I think it was good for AEW overall. It's great just to shine a spotlight on them. I don't think people quite understand because these people don't follow AEW. They don't know everything. They think it was kind of just almost a spontaneous chant amongst these two wrestlers, and everybody, and MJF. This picture you showed kind of got more attention, but I thought what I saw in the national media, like how he was reacting because he was the bad guy. But it was Brody King who several months ago, I meant to look it up before the show, but he wore it on an episode of Dynamite. He had a shirt that said "Abolish Ice." So he's been on this for a while, and I think the crowd knows that. And this might be a thing whenever Brody King shows up to the building. And if so, good for him. He's outspoken, but I also know he said he didn't want to cause the company any issues in the past. But, what are you going to do? The crowd is chanting it. You know what I mean? Like what are you going to do about it? What's the problem?
Yeah, you could take the WWE approach and censor it, but AEW seems like they're letting it go. They let their wrestlers express themselves, and especially with everything that's going on in the country right now, the fact that people are feeling this need to express this at a wrestling show, it's kind of refreshing not to see it censored. We'll see if it gets censored going forward, but the big news of the week was just the fact that they, let it go through, and then it was so prominent, getting national attention.
Yeah, ultimately it'll be up to Warner Brothers, TNT, and TBS, see how they feel about this. Obviously, when they might, and it might not even be a political stance. They just might not really enjoy the F word being chanted on their show. So, we'll have to see how it goes. But in the meantime, I thought it was overwhelmingly a positive moment for AEW and Brody King and MJF even.
Yeah, we'll talk one more piece of current events because Tuesday, Joe Hendry won that NXT Championship. I was not necessarily expecting this. I kind of thought Ricky Saints would probably be the front runner since it seems like Joe Hendry bounces between the main roster and NXT. What do you think of this win? I think it's great for NXT.
I like it. I think it's great for Joe Hendry. Actually, just going to pull it up here. I think, I have it. I have a list of people who have been the TNA and NXT champion. Joe Hendry, Trick Williams, Nick Nemeth, Drew McIntyre, Bobby Roode, Samoa Joe. So basically 6 people. Good company, right? Samoa Joe, Drew McIntyre, Bobby Roode, super cool. Yeah, I think it's great. I'm glad Joe Hendry's getting his opportunity. I, like you, thought it would be Ricky Saints. I thought he was the go-to guy. I thought originally before the Royal Rumble appearance that this might have been a good Powerhouse Hobbs, moment where he would reconnect and help Ricky. But ultimately, I like that Joe Hendry's got it. And it'll be interesting to see where Joe's career goes from here, because I thought Joe was going to be on the main roster. He was doing stuff on SmackDown a little bit about a month ago with Miz, and he even had one of his concerts. I'm almost wondering if, because they kind of took so much of that star power from NXT that they had, with obviously the Trick Williams, the Obafemi, maybe they were like, okay, we need to leave somebody down here. And this is why Joe Hendry's in this spot right now.
Yeah, I think once they start developing a lot more of these young guys that they brought in, that it could really help. And maybe that's when you see him go up. I hope it's not like a quick title defense and just a quick hearing gone.
I just want to say, it's just going to be a sidebar, but Trick Williams, man, like I'm getting a chance to watch some of his work now on SmackDown, and just some of the lines like he comes up with, like Tricky two times, Trick Willie, Mr. Whoop That, right? They got Joe Tessitore calling this stuff. He had this thing about maybe 2 weeks ago, a week ago, Ray Phoenix came up after he cheated to beat Ray Phoenix, and Ray Phoenix went to get his face. And Trick is just so smooth. Everything comes off authentic. And he's just like, oh, what's the matter, brother? You want to thank me for making you famous last week? Don't worry about it, man. I do charity work all the time. And just like, it's like, why does this guy sound so much cooler than everybody else? I don't know, but I'm hoping that, that's just a trend. Like maybe Joe Hendry is going to continue his momentum, and we'll be talking about him that way too when he eventually gets up on SmackDown or Raw full time.
That'd be great to see. And last week we had the Royal Rumble, so it's the official kickoff of the road to WrestleMania. Yeah. On Monday night, we got one of the main events set. Seems like CM Punk is finally going to get his WrestleMania main event headlining night 2 against Roman Reigns. What do you think about this matchup? And what do you think of the news that it was reported that it was supposed to be Braun Breaker going against CM Punk?
Yeah. They apparently spun around some stuff. Not just that, it was Braun Breaker and Punk originally, and they wanted to do Roman and Cody at one time. And I think a lot of the situation was that Paul the Vet felt that we had already done Roman and Cody enough in the last couple years. Like in the last, I think 3 years, Dave went at it like in 3 main events, counting the tag match with The Rock. And then obviously the injury with Seth Rollins. I think they felt like they had to switch some things around. That's why they were going to put Braun Breaker in that spot. But ultimately, I think between everything, like they settled on, okay, let's do Roman and let's do Punk. And hey, man, I watched that closing segment on Raw. Other than the fuck ice chant, like that was my favorite thing of the week. Like they just managed to make it feel personal. They managed to take little inside things where Roman makes a comment about, you made my life a lot harder when you left here, when you went on your little best friend's podcast, and I've always hated you. And, there's some truth to that, right? Like, Punk had mentioned on his podcast, Colt Comanda's podcast back then, that he had always wanted Cassius Ohno in that spot, and around that same time, Roman got a lot of backlash. So it's interesting to see 2 great talkers. And it's funny. I don't know about you, but I was thinking about this. As much as like I've been really positive about AEW and like things have been really well and I'm enjoying the creative there lately, I do look at a guy like Punk and a guy like Cody, and I think for some people, it was probably a better move to go to WWE. Those 2 being great examples. Like, goddamn, CM Punk is main event in WrestleMania with Roman Reigns defending the title right now. Like, it's a great spot to be in.
Yeah, I think AEW is a better place for maybe people coming up off of the indies who are more used to having a say in their creative. Even though they can overdo it with what gets done in the ring, they can make more their own character. And Punk and Cody they've been in that WWE system. They might do better with like a more regulated system. So either way, both companies are doing great right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It may be more old school even, too, because with a guy like Punk, he was, brought up and he loved guys like Terry Funk and Cody, obviously Dusty's kid, And so AEW, I would also say, despite having, like modern independents, right? I think it's better for modern independent guys who want that creativity and stuff they can do. But yeah, I mean, we're talking about a bunch of different things here, but, like I watched Impact Wrestling this week too. And
we were kind of talking about the road to WrestleMania for right now.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like you said, wrestling's been great. And it's like, yeah, like I'm enjoying every company right now. And segueing back to the road to WrestleMania, I think Punk and Roman is a great main event. They kicked it off last night on SmackDown. We're working towards the Elimination Chamber now. We're going to see who Drew McIntyre is going to defend it against, whether it's Cody Raheem, Jacob Fatu. There's going to be an Elimination Chamber match, and the winner of that's going to get Drew. And I think that's great as well.
Yeah, Elimination Chamber, the next big pay-per-view coming up. Maybe we'll get some Elimination Chamber watch-alongs in there. Before we move on to favorite feuds, though, and then to the 5-3-1 to end the show, you were talking about Impact. I didn't watch Impact this week. Was there anything good on there? How did they do this week?
They did great, but it's so funny. I want to remember the girl's name. There was a mixed tag match with Elijah and he had a partner, a young lady, making her debut for Impact against Tasha Steelz and Mustafa Ali. And man, this girl was a house of fire. Like, she was doing awesome moves. Lance Storm was talking about, like, you know, she was great. And Brian Alvarez was really putting her over on Wrestling Observer. But yeah, oh my goodness. Jody something, I want to say. Yeah, I wish I remember that. But she is someone to look out for. Overall, Impact is just solidly putting out better shows after that unfortunate debut that they had on the initial AMC show.
Yeah, they've got a special next Friday, I believe, No Surrenders. That'll be worth checking out. And before we get to the return of the 531, I was thinking for an interesting nostalgia segment, I was thinking, what are some of the best feuds? Like, what are some of your favorite wrestling feuds over the years? And I used this picture of Hogan and Andre to kind of symbolize, like, this is probably what the biggest feud from our childhood.
I mean, no doubt. I mean, when you talk about like major wrestling feuds, like, this is probably the first one like I'm going to think of, you know, but there's a lot. I mean, Flair Funk, Flair Steamboat, Savage Steamboat, which is also
Flair.
Savage Flair. You know, we could go a little later. We go factions. Austin McMahon, you know, that's a legendary feud. NWO. I mean, this is kind of not in the traditional sense, but the Monday Night War, like just feuding organizations, because that was so personal at the time. Yeah, but I mean, I like to try to probably keep it more traditional, just going within the confines of wrestling. I mean, God, top feuds off the top of my head, I personally would go Hogan Andre. I'd say Flair Steamboat. Austin McMahon's got
favorite feuds, because even what made me think about this was I was watching Post Wrestling and they were talking about Nakamura coming in and possibly Evil coming in and saying who else from New Japan could come in because a lot of people have left. And I was thinking Hiromu Takahashi just left. And one of my favorite modern feuds was Hiromu Takahashi versus Dragon Lee between CMLL, between ROH. They put on some classic matches. And that was like a really great modern feud that I had seen.
You know what?
Who else?
You know what's funny? They probably wouldn't get much talk about. Totally under the radar. I only had really 2 or 3 big matches that I can think of. Mostly in NXT UK was Ilya Dragunov versus Gunther.
Yeah, they produced some classic matches that still has us talking to this day. We've been hoping for the rematch in WWE. We haven't seen it quite yet.
But I think personal when I always think of feuds. You know, you think modern feuds.
MJF CM Punk was a great AEW feud. It felt hot when AEW was at its best.
MJF and Cody, too. Like MJF, those 2 feuds with Cody and Punk. Yeah, like he did some masterful work with those 2. Yeah, all good shit. I mean, like I said, you know, I had a lot of feuds in the 80s and the 90s that I really liked.
Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express, classic tag team one that I think about.
Absolutely. Those are always good. Bulldogs and Heart Foundation, Steiner Brothers, and the Miracle Violence Connection. You know, those are some fun tag team ones. Damn. Man, you know, talk about like no one would probably have this on their list, but a young Dustin Rhodes and a young Stunning Steve Austin for the WCW United States title, like in the feuds and the matches.
Man, that brings me back to prime 90s WCW right there.
And Rude was killer if you want to talk that era. Rude had a great feud with Dustin Rhodes and Ricky Steamboat and Sting, and you know, like it's kind of funny because Rude's one of those few guys I thought that left WWE at a height in a prime of his career, but then like he turned it up on another level when he went to WCW and just had awesome matches.
Yeah, I mean, around that time, how many guys really made that jump and had that success? There was him, Hogan. I can't think of many others that like skyrocketed getting to WCW.
Right.
You know, guys did good, but like I wouldn't say they made their career necessarily.
And flip-flop it. It's even more uncommon the other way a lot of times, where a lot of people from WCW and elsewhere like fizzled out in WWE quick. Like I can tell you 2 guys off the top of my head I always point to that went from WCW, had great careers, but killed it in WWE because they found their personality. Booker T, Eddie Guerrero. Just amazing. Booker's still killing it as an announcer.
Yeah, we were talking about that the other day, how he stays entertaining. And guys, we're going to pop out here for a minute because we're going to do the return of the 531. I'm excited about this. It's in our logo. We haven't done it for a year or two since we were really trying to pull lists out of people, but Dave came up with a new format, and we're going to play the short that got all the lists. Then we're going to read some lists. Then we're going to discover our top one. And maybe you can give us some of your favorites in the comments.
Let's take 5 random wrestlers and rank them 1 through 5, starting off with the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, the master of the DDT, Jake the Snake Roberts. How about big, tall Barry Windham? How about the excellence of execution, Bret the Hitman Hart? And last but not least, how about the Beast, Brock Lesnar? How do you rank these guys 1 through 5? Let me know in the comments.
And we're about to let you know here. I'm going to give you my first list. It's from Dwayne Daniel Menzies, and he has Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Barry Windham, Jake Roberts, and Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, great list. I mean, I don't know if I think you said before, like, I'm the one who read the shorts. I don't know if we're going to go on my list, but that man just hit it, by the way. So, like, I just tell you right now, that man hit it. Well, let's just do it, baby. Let's take some turns. I remember this. We've been out of practice. Give me a minute here. I'm going to talk about Richard Cole. Richard, he's got Brock Lesnar number 1. He's got Shawn Michaels 2, Jake Roberts 3, Barry Windham 4, and Bret Hart 5. Richard, appreciate your list. Disagree wholehearted we. Bret is not the end of any of this list.
Yeah. He's the front runner on a lot of them, and all these lists we're taking off of Facebook. So if you're watching us on Facebook, thank you for the list. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. A lot of the people that watch us aren't subscribed. I bet Bobby Bowles is subscribed because he's got Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Brock Lesnar, Jake Roberts, and Barry Windham.
I mean, that's a fine list, but when you put Barry at number 5, I just think you don't know how good Barry truly was. But it's hard to go
younger and just didn't have a lot of exposure to him.
Yeah, because I mean, I got Brock at my number 5, and it's like Brock's a fucking animal. So it's kind of like it's hard to really criticize anyone for these lists. These are all great guys. Daniel Williams, he's got Shawn and Bret. I bet you that's going to be a lot of 1 and 2, huh? Bret and Shawn, Shawn and Bret. But Jake the Snake Robertson at number 3, Brock Lesnar at 4, and Barry Windham at 5.
I'm going to give you my list next because it's just ironic you ripped on that last guy's list because I've got Bret Hart, Jake Roberts, Shawn Michaels, Brock Lesnar, and Barry Windham.
Shit. Let me tell you something. You want to talk about a list? I'll talk about my man John Smith. He's got Bret Hart, Barry Windham at number 2. Number 3, Brock. Number 4, Shawn. I don't know about that. He might be the greatest wrestler ever, but okay. Number 5, Jake the Snake Roberts, the master of the DDT. By the way, Shawn Michaels has rubbed some people the wrong way. I have to say, I think it affects people because Eric Edcart, who comments on a lot of stuff, he'll see the YouTube shorts. I love his list. I always am pretty sure if I go back and look at his list, if I have like Shawn on there, he always has the top 4, and then always the 5th one is, and then maybe Shawn. I'm like, okay.
The next list I got for you, Robert Harrell got most of them, or I just forgot to write down a number 5 because I've got Jake Roberts, Barry Windham, Bret, and Brock.
Okay. Well, I like the fact that we're talking about Jake Roberts. I got a list from Shawn Roberts, who I don't know if he's related, but Jake is number 1, and he's even got an explanation. Jake had the best promos in the ring. Smart. Didn't try to go toe-to-toe a lot of times. He made it entertaining. He is my number 1. Shawn 2, Bret 3, Brock 4, Barry 5.
Not a bad list. Next one I got is from Steve Tiergarten. He's got Shawn, Jake, Brock, Bret, Barry Windham.
Yeah, I have a feeling like I can already see where this list is going to end up going. But Clyde Van, only Brock, Barry, Shawn, Jake. In the day, Barry was great. Only Brock, Bret, Barry, Shawn. Okay.
It was weird the way they wrote it, but it looks like they did give out their list.
They did give it out. Yeah, you did. All right.
I've got Brian Gaskin, who has Shawn, Brock, Brett Barry, and Jake Roberts.
I'm looking ahead at this last name here, but I got one more list before we get to my last guy. David Stewart has got Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Brock Lesnar, Jake the Snake Roberts, and Barry Windham.
I'm going to hit you with 3 quick lists here, and then we'll get to our final 3, because Larry D. Ainsley has Shawn, Brock, Brett, Barry, and Jake. Chu Her has Brett, Shawn, Jake, Brock, and Barry. And Charles Glavick has Brett, Shawn, Jake, Brock, and Barry. So I did some compiling before we got on here, and it's not going to be hard to figure out who the top 2 are. Brett and Shawn were on almost every list. Almost every, either 1 and 2 or 2 and 1. Some flip-flopped it. The third one is going to be kind of hard. I threw Brock in there because I thought he placed highest on a couple lists. Make an argument to get Brock off the list and somebody else on.
Hold on. I got to get one more list off here because this is my man, and I'm going to read his name the way I see it. Justin Cockburn has got Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Brock Lesnar, Barry Windham, and Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake had been bigger than Barry, but Barry was still NWA champ. Glad the man cares about the NWA title. Now, getting back here, we're talking about...
Okay, I'm going Jake rule here. I'm going to give you Scott Marwick. He's got Shawn, Brock, Brett, Jake, and Barry. Shout out to Jake St. John, 13th round. Right.
So now we're making a case for number 3 between Barry, Brock, and Jake. You know what's kind of funny is I just got done talking about how good Barry Windham was, and if you don't know, you know, what the fuck are you doing? But when I think about it, when you look at what a big star Brock Lesnar really is, you know, he's arguably the biggest star out of this whole thing. I mean, to do what he did at UFC and in WWE, all the WrestleManias, ended the Undertaker streak, and you look at the once-in-a-lifetime athlete that he is, like, especially looking early in his career when man was like over 300 pounds back then and doing like a shooting star press and F5ing the Big Show and Mark Henry. It's kind of like I got to eat a little shit here about what I said earlier, and maybe I think Brock probably does belong at number 3, but it's really criteria, right? Because Jake the Snake Roberts is probably the greatest interview out of all these guys. And Barry was a very smooth in-ring worker that's just as good as everybody, with the exception of maybe Brett and Shawn.
I would argue that Jake's interview skills are good enough where it almost tops, not that he was bad in the ring, but it tops like any like shortcoming he has when compared to like Brock or when compared to somebody else.
I mean, I have no problem. I have no problem putting Jake the Snake in there because at the end, you're going to number 3, you're going to die. Because the top 2 guys we're going to talk about are Brett and Shawn. So number 3, Jake Roberts. Nice to know you. Hit him with that DDT, but take an exit. We got to talk. Are you a Brett guy or a Shawn guy? Because it comes down to these 2.
Yeah, this is the eternal debate. And I mean, if you look at these lists, predominantly Brett people, but like you talked about, Anthony Eckhart, Patreon subscriber, not a Shawn guy at all.
Yeah.
And I was a fan of Shawn, but when I was putting my list together, Jake just edged him out because even though Shawn was amazing in ring, Jake had that talking ability and he had some wild matches. Like Jake really got emotion out of you.
Yeah. I mean, if you had AJ on this show, he would pick Shawn Michaels. He was more of a Shawn guy. Shawn did some more crazier type, you know, flashier maneuvers, but he still made it all make sense. That being said, I've said this before, and it's not that Shawn didn't do this. It's just that other than Terry Funk, from my personal preference, I don't know anybody who did it as well as Brett, and he made it believable. When he was in the ring, he made everything just look and feel believable. And Brett was an adequate promo. He was good at being Bret Hart, but I would not go, hey, one of the greatest promos of all time. But Brett, because of the way he worked in ring, is like one of the most believable guys of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah, like I was a fan of both Brett and Shawn when that happened, you know, when that feud was going on. But for me, it was always just Brett. You know, a little better in the ring. He always made it more believable. Shawn was great. Like, he did things that had me like, oh, wow, Shawn is amazing. But, like, I kind of like that Brett wasn't as good of a promo because it almost adds to his credibility. He doesn't need to be a good promo if he's going to get it done in the ring. It's almost like with Shawn Michaels talking so much, what is he hiding behind the talking?
Yeah, no doubt. And I would say Brett and Shawn, like, neither one of them are going to be the greatest promos of all time. They could cut promos. Maybe Shawn was a little better. But yeah, ultimately, it comes down to personal preference. And if my vote is going to go to Bret Hart, he'll be the number one guy because there was just something a little more rugged in his matches that I really liked.
100%. I'm going to go with Bret Hart as well because being a personal favorite, seeing him top so many lists. And Dave, we did it. Oh, that is not the sound effect I was looking for. There it is. Bret Hart won our 5-3-1 today. And we are going to hear from one of our favorite authors, Ray Lopez. And then we're going to come back for some exclusive Patreon talk. What will it be? Neither David and I don't know. Author Ray Lopez presents Lockup, professional wrestling in our world. Lockup dives headfirst into the colorful world of professional wrestling. Explore the iconic characters, careers, matches, history, and families, and delve into the bizarre and fascinating entwining of professional wrestling and film, television, football, politics, gender, and race. Pre-orders are available now on Amazon.com or at MascotBooks.com. This is the perfect gift for the wrestling fan in your life. Pick up a copy today on Amazon.com or at Mascot.